Evening, everyone. Welcome back to Swiftaholics. Jumping in here for the start of the men's mixed APAC B1 race around Makuri Islands, first Makuri Islands race in the Zwift Racing League, which is exciting. Looking forward to watch. First little glitch for tonight. I thought the start of the race was 7:30. It's actually obviously started at 7:20, as you can see. So Josh and I are just sorting out the specifics of the chat at the moment. So just bear with me while I just get some buttons pushed as these guys go around towards that first intermediate sprint, which does come at the 5 kilometer mark, and I'll just try and get Josh online now.
Hey, Adam.
I can hear you. How you doing?
Good, mate.
Let me just check that the viewers at home can hear you as well. How's your audio set up tonight? Good to be back in the commentary box.
Well, let's just say I missed last.
Oh. All right, we haven't quite got Josh yet. Let me just see if we can get you on the audio so everyone can hear. These guys are a K.5 in. Sure can hear me, which is good. Let's see if we can hear you, Josh. Well, we can't see you yet, but that's my fault because I've got you hidden, which is a bit rude. There we go.
There we go.
We've got your face up. I haven't got your audio going just yet, though. What have I done here? So apologies for a couple of technical glitches. I very cleverly managed to reset my entire streaming setup settings and haven't quite got it back to normal yet. So we've managed to at least get into the race. We can see that. I can see a couple of comments in the chat saying that audio is coming through well on my end, but let's just see if we can get you in. Josh, I might just have to add you in.
Standing by.
All right. So big, let's see, not that one. Big AHDR field here tonight. We did advertise this on the AHDR page. 3 AHDR teams taking on B1. But so far outclassed by the Waratah Masters team, who just dominated in the first couple of weeks and look to have a very strong squad.
I think I'm on, Adam.
Yeah, we've got you coming through. Yeah, looks like it's working now. All right, I think I just had the volume set a little bit low on that one from some prior settings, so I think we're good to go.
Beautiful.
Special request to start us off. Sure has asked that we sugarcoat this and make it sound very easy, not at all difficult. He's a bit worried about how he's going to feel taking this course on later on in the program. But I tell you what I would love to see tonight is some hard counter-attacking over the top of the intermediate sprints, especially the first countryside sprint. But my theory going into this is that we're going to see effectively a flat sprinters race with a pretty large front group going all the way to a bunch kick at the end. But what about you, Josh? What's your thesis going into tonight's race?
Yeah, look, I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens after that first countryside sprint and then that little incline up into the village. I expect to see a little bit of attrition there and a few attacks. I raced this course through twice now over the last couple of weeks, and both times a little bit of work being done and pushing up that little incline. Both races didn't have any intermediates, so no one was really caring about that countryside sprint too much. That'll be very different tonight. And then, yeah, just that little push up into the village, and then if you can hold that. In saying that though, there is a lot of distance between that incline and the next sprint, so it could all get brought back together. So if anything, I'd like to see some counter-attacking through the village sprint down into the start-finish banner.
Yeah, we're about to see the start of the action. So coming up to that first sprint, just around these couple of little twisty corners. So a quick shout out in the chat. We do have Darren Bramwell online. Like to see you again, Darren. Matt J asking whether the Tron is better than the Aero and the disc wheels. Surely not. We agree, Matt. We agree. Huge fans of the disc wheels and the Cervelo on this channel. All you'll find is love for the Cervelo.
I cannot say enough good things about Cervelo and the DT Swiss Arc wheels. The disc wheel, the DT Swiss Arc disc wheel. They are amazing.
Yep, special bit of kit. So getting our first glimpse now of that first sprint intermediate barrow. I watched the Premier League this morning actually, and these guys were popping power-ups already at this point. Looks like a bit of a smarter sort of group here, still holding on, and now the action's starting with Vale from R3R kicking us off with the New Zealanders hot on their tail. They've started very early. Look like they've got a bit of a break here. Sean from NZ Bro. It's not long to go, being chased by Augie. I don't even know can't pronounce the name, but
all those orange numbers come in.
Yeah.
From NZ Bro. Looks like he's cool.
I think it was Augie from TV managed to get the chockies. R3R looked like they had 2 in the top 5, and yeah, I think NZ Bro managed to be up there prominent as well in that top 5. So there's a few names for us to be watching as this race progresses. And now the really interesting thing, which I'm really curious about, is what happens next. We've got some tired legs, just given it them all in an intermediate sprint, and now we have a look coming up to the first rise. Is it going to split or is it going to come back together?
Yeah, this little section here, it is relatively flat, but there are some false flats there, and that's the same after that first rise up into the village. So we are seeing a little bit of split there.
I tell you what, we might have some controversial tactics here at the back. There were some whispers of sort of going for the first sprint, sitting up, waiting for the bunch, and then going for more intermediates later on when you get lapped. And it looks like Augie from TV might just be adopting that strategy. Either that or he's just spent all of his tickets, because he is sat up, he's ticking along at 2-3 watts a kilo at the back there. Meanwhile, as I jump up further...
That's not right. That's not right.
Yeah, it's a little below the belt. A little below the belt in my opinion. So I work my way back up the field here on the broadcast, just trying to get to the front. A lot of famous AHDR names, a lot of friends of ours. Michael Pepper is leading the way as we look at how this group has stretched out, and it's a big stretch. Pepper has a 2-second lead actually. He's gone really hard, really trying to stretch this group out. This might be a tactic from the AHDR Barracudas to try and burn off some of those sprinters early on in the race.
Yeah, the numbers aren't massive though. Look, that seems relatively conservative to me. It was only really sort of a 4 to 4.5 watt per kilo push. Bit of a reaction coming from the group now. Shanks actually trying to catch back up from AHDR ballers and bringing that in closely. So not seeing much teamwork done between the teams. Definitely each team wanting to take the points for themselves, I should say.
Yeah, it does seem that way. Not no love lost between these AHDR teams. I think all pretty competitive between themselves as we see the bunch closing in now. Still a nice sized peloton. Might just have a quick look at our mini-map and see if we can get a sense of whether there's been much damage. A few stragglers coming through the village now, so we have had some attrition. But as you can see, probably still a group of 30 or so riders managing to hold on to that front group as we work our way up this sort of false flat rise. Nice little test for the legs, but probably not enough. And I think I guess in ZRL being in these small leagues, they're probably riders are too evenly matched to really see any sort of splits on these kind of gradients. So we have a look at the teams represented here. So AHDR, very well represented, as you can see. We've got the AHDR, the Beers, the Barracudas, and the Ballers, all facing off in APAC B1. But none of them have been able to top the Waratah Masters, the WMZBs. B grade team have just been dominant. I think they won the TTT. They scored 320 points last week around figure 8, which was an astonishing achievement. So I wouldn't. I mean, I came in thinking they were the ones to watch. I didn't see them represented in that, at least that top five though, in that first intermediate though, Josh. So maybe not the right course for them. Maybe they were better suited to the punchy climbs on figure eight.
Yeah, look, I didn't see at all what was happening in that first set. I was just watching the front there, Adam, so I'm not too sure what was happening there. I didn't see anything, so I can't say I was doing my job properly here in the commentary box.
Yes, well, I mean, early days yet. We've got 6 intermediates to cover today, so you don't want to burn all your legs on the first one, particularly not before the first rise. There's a couple of questions in the chat. So Dylan kind of speculating on that that strategy around going for the first intermediate and then sitting up and waiting, thinking maybe you go for the second one as well and then sit up. Who can put their heads into who can get their heads in the way these guys are thinking, racing and then sitting up. So not popular between Josh and myself, but it's another strategy that you could employ, is go for those first intermediates and then maybe hope to latch on for lap 3. And Christian's on as well from AHDR, so eyeing off this race for the tactics to employ in the EMEA time slots tomorrow morning, our time.
We can see as they're coming through this sort of fishing village and the bridges, it is that false flat. So this is where if you were to attack in that first little rise, you do have to push through this section here. So we can see the group just sort of sitting in, and it is staying at about 1-2%. And I noticed when I raced this over the weekend, it was sort of, did come back together pretty quickly, and anyone that tried to get away here didn't last long.
Yeah, similar story in the Premier League. A few tried to attack through this section. There's this one last little rise. I think we haven't quite got there yet, but there's one last little bridge that goes up at a couple of percent, but still kind of like a kilometre away from that intermediate sprint. It's a long way to be sitting out there all on your own, and easy pickings for the peloton, at least in the Premier League races. We'll see how we go here in the APAC B grade. So a couple of shout outs in the LOL. We'll have a shout out to, I've got to find him, my friend Ilya. He said he wouldn't get much of a showing on the channel because he doesn't rate himself as much of a sprinter, but he's done well so far, sitting in right at the front of the packs, obviously managing to hold on up this false flat rise at the moment. So good start from Ilya for the AHDR beers. It would take me forever just to get through the guys that I'm following. If you can see, I think my mini-map's coming through on the broadcast just lit up with little orange dots because we have so many AHDR friends and teammates racing in this time slot. It really has become a bit of an institution, the ZRL, amongst the AHDR races.
And it looks like that all the AHDR riders are spending a lot of time around that mid to the front pack, so they're placed really well at the moment, and you can just see those blue and orange jerseys everywhere. Actually, look at that; it's fantastic.
Yeah, yep, they're well represented. Hard for us in the commentary box to know who's who between the different teams as we do hit. So this is the last sort of attack point, or last rise anyway, before we get through the castle and then onto the intermediate sprint and the downhill. So no major interest, it looks like, from the team. I see a few sort of 4.5, 5 watts per kilos though. So as a group, they're surging up this section, but pretty tightly matched by the look of it. No one's really managing to stretch this group out or put anyone in any real trouble at the back of this group.
Now, where would you go on this sprint here, Adam, into the village? I know you've made the call. Is it the second left-hand turn?
Yeah, we sort of do a sharp left and then a right, and then it's a left around this sort of stone wall, which I think is where, for me, sort of this point here, definitely pushing up, wanting to be near the front. As you see, this is where the power-ups are really starting to kick off. And then it's a very short sprint. Let's jump up to the front, see if we can catch who's going to take this one. So WMZ up the front, Morton and Main taking 1 and 2, followed by Dirty Sprockets, Vision, another WMZ rider as well. So 3 in that top 10 at least. So maybe a deliberate tactic there from the WMZ Bs to leave that first sprint alone, save the legs, make sure that they don't get dropped up that first rise, and then go hard at this second sprint where you do get a little bit of flat road and descent to recover. So looks like some smart racing there from those guys.
Yeah, look, I mean, it is a long race. We're probably going to be looking at, mid 50 to 60 minutes racing. So they're going to be pushing for a while here, and being such a flat course, and the most rest you're going to get is just trying to hold wheels, but you're pedaling the whole time. Definitely not through this area here where we're descending down towards the start-finish banner. We see a little bit of a move there from the AHDR Barras riders, I think it is.
Yeah,
To the front.
there's a bit of damage here. That second sprint actually did almost more than the first one in terms of splitting it up. So, great if you're in this first group of 15 or so riders, but that second bunch on the road are probably not enjoying the recovery that they might have been hoping for on this descent. They're really having to push to close down this gap, and we've lost a few more riders. I can see probably a good group of 2 and then maybe 4 or 5 further off the back as well. So that's an early watch point. I think these intermediate sprints, even if you're not contesting for those first across the line points, you need to be on the pedals. You need to be putting in a bit of a dig and burning some petrol, because otherwise, you find yourself 1 or 2 seconds back, and the speeds these guys are going, it doesn't take long to be race over. So a few riders popped early.
I've been really interested to see how this rolls out, this plays out in this section here as we come around. There's about 800 to go from that corner past the pens, and we can see here what happens as we come down this little descent, and then it hits the bridge, and see if anyone pushes. Now, there isn't any points as we go through here, but of course it is the start-finish banner, so we will be finishing here in 2 more laps' time.
Yeah, so shout out on the chat to our good friend Cy Bradley, who's tuning in. So I don't know if he's racing. He has been racing in the APAC time zone as well, but he's going to be racing against me around this course in the morning in the EMEA West time slot that we're in now. So we're enjoying very tight competition there. A shout out from Brad to Gibbo. So we've got a fan of Gibbo. I'm guessing that's Brad Gibson, or B Gibson here from the AHDR Barracudas, has a fan club tuning in on YouTube tonight, so that's good to see. And Si's just let me know he's resting tonight, specifically because he's racing against me in the morning. So you could have given it a go, Si. It's only 50 minutes. You'd have been right.
There was Si that called earlier the riders that would sit up and wait the lap. Well, that's where I heard it.
Yeah, controversial.
So I saw you mention that it's quite strung out. Well, if we look back, we think there's a few riders that are hanging back and going for faster segment.
Yeah, if you missed the start, if anyone missed that start in that first sprint, there were a couple of riders who were prominent, and actually the winner of that first sprint then sat up at about 2 watts a kilo and just let the field ride away. So we might be seeing him again. It's interesting to see where he picks his spot to sit and wait to tag back in with this group. We haven't seen anything like it in our time coverings with Racing League, that's for sure.
I'm just checking Smith Power, and it does look like there's a sort of quite a few riders that have sat back, actually. We've got this front bunch. They're all sitting together. Almost 50 riders in this bunch, if not more.
It's a lot more than it seems like on the road. I reckon we're down to maybe 30 odd.
Just waiting for my next update here.
Yeah, it might be picking up the group behind, because it seems like there's a sizable group that's come together only a few seconds back.
Yeah, we'd say, I think it's about 30 riders or so, 25, 30 riders.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get a feel. I don't know if you can see better on Zwift Power. I'm trying to get a feel for the teams that we have represented up the front here. So WMZ B's very well represented. I see a few dirt jerseys, a couple from Z Sun. Trying to pick out the 3 AHDR teams. The seem to have some representatives at least from all three. I guess I'd say the Barracudas seem to have the weight of numbers here, but we've got a number of riders to try and pick through at the moment.
Quite a few in the Aero as well, looks like.
Yeah, okay, so Team Aero, again, they've always been competitive in this APAC time zone, so good to see them back and contesting this league again. It looks like, just kind of looking at our mini-map here, trying to figure out where these waiting riders are. I'm fascinated by how this storyline is going to play out. That could have been a more popular strategy than I imagined. I kind of thought that most would look at that and think, funny idea, but no. But I guess we are in Division 1 here. There's possible promotions and things on the line, and a bit of prestige winning the Premier League in B grade. So anything goes by the look of it. Now I'll just see, Josh, if I can sort you out with some live vision. And we'll try, might briefly mess around with our camera setup. That's good. Alright, we've still got everything going on the stream, so that's good. So a little bit of a lull here. This is a nice little recovery period, really. Nice, off the descent. If you're in the front group and you can afford to super tuck a bit and sit up, then you do have a nice 5 kilometre flat section through here. It does have a couple of 1 or 2% bits, which I raced this as a recon race Saturday night, and by the third lap I was starting to notice the resistance kick up in those. Even that 1 or 2% was enough to feel it, but early on in the race it's definitely a nice little flat recovery, although we're not too far away now from heading into our third intermediate for the day.
And I think that highlights that section over the village sprint and then down the descent into the start-finish manner. I think you really need to push there and hold that front group, if not counter through there, and just to hold those wheels, and then you get that nice ride up through here, through to the second sprint.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a spot to be, good chance to recover, but recovery is over as we see Vale from R3R taking it up nice and early. So this bus stop on the right hand side is about 250 metres to go. He's gone a little bit too early though. Gray from the Dirty Sprockets now taking the lead.
We saw that on the first lap. They're going to get caught. That's far too early to go, I think, on this one. You sort of need to be lighting up from about, just after that bus stop. About halfway between that bus stop and the start.
Yeah, it looks like it was Hands from NZ Bro taking that one. So another good point scoring sprint from NZ Bro. But WMC look like they got the weight of numbers coming through there. Maybe 3 and the top 5 or 6 in that one. So top points going to NZ Bro, but I think WMC taking the lead here with two very strong sprints back to back.
I like their name and their little tribute to J.R. Tolkien. That's right, isn't it?
That's
the
it.
writer of the Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, a bit of the Lord of the Rings, New Zealand connection going on there. And I tell you what, this field has been shattered by that sprint. It does look like we're going to bunch up, but big ask for the riders at the back just to dig in after that surge and try and latch on as we do hit the steepest part of the course.
Say Martin coming to the front here. He's someone that we do need. Martin races with us in the team time trials. He can push there, and I think going up this little rise there, his potential got a little bit of as it comes back together. But Martin could push there and could go away. So let's watch that on the next lap.
Yeah, I've seen him absolutely fly up the Bologna KOM, so I know he can climb. I was in the same boat as you, actually. I thought that might have been a bit of a move there. Maybe just grabbing a few seconds of TV time while he had the chance. But it looks like group holding together.
That's understandable.
As we see, it's sort of 4.5. A few riders ticking up towards 5 and 6 watts a kilo there, just briefly, just to get their position as we get to the village. But no real attacking action going on here. Certainly not enough to split this field. There's a couple of questions on YouTube from Matt. Here you say you can see live results on Zwift Power. Yes, if you find the event on zwiftpower.com, you can go to the live tab on the event page, and you can see live positions of the riders with time gaps. Mostly reliable, not always, but does give you a pretty good picture. Handy resource while you are racing as well, if you can multitask and keep an eye on what's going on there, especially if you're looking for riders who might be out of their grade and you're actually not actually racing against. So Zwift Power Live tab is just a wealth of information. And yeah, comment from Dylan that was a really early go on that intermediate, Josh, and like you called out, it was, and for the second lap out of 2, we saw those early, the guys that went early just got reeled in with still more than 150 meters to go. So it really hasn't paid off, at least in this race.
Look, I just think this course altogether doesn't really play out for an early attack. I think the only place an early attack might work is on that finish line sprint. And my only tactic there would be one person from a team. It would be a team tactic, not an individual tactic. Someone from the team would need to go around 800 to go, cause a reaction, that your teammates to follow that and surf the wheels, and then full expectation that the bunch would come over the top of you if you're the one that attacked that 800 to go. I do not think that you would last at all. That's the only time I think an early attack would work, but nowhere else.
Yeah, I got to say, this is one of my least favourite finishes in all of Zwift racing so far, because the speeds are just ridiculous coming down that hill. When I raced it on Saturday, we were hitting 77, 78 k's an hour, and so if you don't get your timing right on that final sprint, you hit the front too early, you just catch a wall of wind and you get shuffled backwards pretty quickly. But likewise, it's really hard to know exactly when to launch because the speeds are so high, so it does sort of shift from what might be normal distance markers. So it's a little bit of a lottery. I think teams are going to be the teams that have the weight of numbers in the group are going to be definitely advantaged, just because it's sort of the tactics part. Everything kind of goes into the washing machine on that descent, and it's
you do not want to see any front wind until after that mossy bridge, in my opinion.
Agreed.
You don't want to see any wind at all, and I think I'll talk through my sprint from Sunday when I raced this. I ended up coming third, and by a matter of a 200th of a second, so it was 3 of us up the front, and we timed it perfectly. I just didn't have the 200th of a second to get any further up the podium. But I think, look, I was really happy with my approach on that. I started my sprint from around mid to by the end of the pack, a bunch of about 10, and then started my sprint with about 500 to go, and hit that bridge, pushed a second kick when we hit that mossy bridge, and by the end of the mossy bridge I popped out the front with 2 other riders, and we just battled it out to the line.
Yeah, nice. I mean, our race was just frenetic. I think we had about 10 riders finish within under a second, and positions changing right up to the very end. So I think this is going to be decided by thousandth of a second, would be my prediction. So while we're watching the riders coming up that ride, there was a little bit of attack on the front. We saw Luian have a go with one of the WMZ riders jumping in as well, but not enough to shake anyone. A pretty quick response from the group. So just a little bit of a test, up at around 5.2 watts a kilo off the front there for a bit, but the group pretty keen to jump on and keep that going. So yeah, thank you from Matt's learned something about Zwift Power Live tonight. And yeah, you might need a third screen. It's ridiculous. I mean, I've got Zwift up. I've got Zwift Power on on one phone. I've got the chat app on another phone. The data available through Zwift is just amazing. So,
and then we wonder why we have technical issues.
Yeah. All right, I tell you what, we've got some insider intel from the peloton, and I'm assuming that none of the other riders are watching this, so we can give this away. But Adam Evans saying that his chain is slipping on the sprints, so he's not actually able to go short. So he's planning on, setting off some dynamite early and going long. So something for us to watch. So thank you, Adam, for that little juicy bit of intel. That's going to keep us excited. And comment from Dylan that the next sprint could really decimate this pack. And fair. There's a reasonable chance, I think, of that. Seeing how much every sprint, it just seems to spread out that bit more and that bit more. And we've been losing riders little bit by little bit. So after the push.
Is Adam and Martin on the same team?
Good question.
It would be good if Adam and Martin could go together after the next countryside sprint. That's where I'd go if I was Adam.
Yeah, well, it's probably the spot. I mean, it's a long go. He won last week's race from a breakaway, so he's got the engine, and probably that'd be the timing. It'd certainly be when the rest of the field is hoping that no one goes, which is often the best time to go.
We can see here this thing's starting to heat up a little bit as
it sure is.
Come through to the village. Very much bunched up.
Yeah, so we're gonna it's a challenge to keep up with the front of the pack here. This is moving very quickly. We'll try and get to the front here. Sean from NZ Bro, Gray from Dirty Sprockets looks like might have taken it up as I've gone a little bit too far there. Gray from Dirty Sprockets, Mott from WEZ, Sean from EZ Bro. These names coming up again and again. Looks like the WMZBs again. So we've got these top three, Maynink and Morton and T, represented very consistently in the pointy end of these sprints. So I think that's 3 in a row where they've scored at least 3 riders in the top 10. Looking dominant tonight.
I did notice it strings out very quickly, so I think anyone watching for their own race tomorrow, you sort of really need to be on the gas through every spin to stay in touch, really, don't you?
Yeah, I'm just going to jump back. I sort of spotted a couple at the back who look like they might be having a tough time of life, so I want to just sort of jump in and see what that experience is like trying to catch on back after this sprint. So Benham from Vision, Pierce from EZ Bro, along with Bordeaux from TV, look like they might be able to get back here. Bordeaux putting in 8.5 watts a kilo on the descent just to try and grab this pack, but it looks like it might just be getting away from these 4 riders at the back. It looks like Benham has put the Q in the rack. Unfortunately, couldn't hold on. Bordeaux and Pierce, similar, and our good mate Damien Hassan from the AHDR Ballers, again, just looks to have been caught out by that surge. So, yeah, good little call from Dylan there that there could be some damage done through that intermediate sprint.
Still good chance that they could come back to the group here, because as things sort of string out a little bit, and this is that section here where I said you really need to be in the wheels, hit that mossy bridge just there, start your second kick, and by the time you hit around here, you should be popping through the front of the group and really just fighting it out of that to that finish line.
Yeah, I went into the sprint with the best laid plans in my race, but then I don't know how you go. I think that the technicalities or the technical skills of positioning on a descent on Zwift are very tricky to master, and you can find yourself yo-yoing back and forth really easily. That happened to me, I think, twice on that descent. Sitting about 5th, 6th wheel, exactly where I wanted to be, and then next thing I knew, I was back at 20th or 30th spot.
And look, for me, I think I was, it worked out for me, but I did feel like I was at sort of the back of the pack a little bit too much, and that's where I thought, well, I need to go here, and that was at that 500 to go, and I started my sprint there, went up into sort of 10 watts per kilo, hit the bridge, and then tried to kick again, and I popped out with those two other riders. So it worked for me. It's a combination of getting into the super tuck and then pedaling as well. It's a couple of, just got to watch those little rises down the descent. And if you need to go, you need to go early. Don't be afraid to get on the gas early, and that's where I was like at about 500 go. It was happy to go there and move through the bunch and use the draft.
Yeah, if you caught at the back, you're right. I mean, you really don't have any. You would be punished very heavily for hesitating in that last final 500. You're not going to make up stacks of ground through a pack that's going at that speed, I don't think.
Well, I think, look, would it be fair to say you are better off going with at least 500 to go? If you're within 500 to go, you should have already gone.
Yeah, you got to get moving. I mean, you're going to cover that distance so quickly.
You've got no choice of hesitating there. You have to go. I instinctively did that, and it paid off for me on Sunday.
Yeah, I found myself, probably too close to the front to launch all in, because if I had, it was going to be too early. So it was trying to measure, which is really tricky. And then it's interesting, like my Strava power graph, it was really only a 6-second sprint in the end, which was good enough for third, and sort of just got knocked off by under a tenth of a second in the end. But I think if you finding that position a little bit further back so that you can really wind up the sprint rather than trying to go from 0 to 100 in that final frantic kind of last couple of 100 meters is probably where I'd like to be. All things going well tomorrow, we'll see how we go.
Yep. And then, I mean, look, I'll say it again, that's where the Cervelo and the DT Swiss Arc disc was just amazing in that situation. Just surfed through those wheels and through those other rides, through that pack so nicely.
So I was just saying, poor Damien's had a mechanical, the bike's come off the kicker.
That's why he had fallen off.
Yep. So, problem with the quick release or the through axle there. So, yeah, maybe just attacking that sprint with obviously plenty of intent, attacking these intermediates with lots of intent, managed to pry the bike loose there. So, a very tough luck there for Damien and the AHDR Ballers. They've lost a rider there who, would have probably been a strong contender.
Have we got any idea on who our big sprint numbers are in this group?
I haven't.
Look now, I'm seeing a couple of 15s and 14s.
Well, that'll do some damage.
Yeah. Interestingly though, there was, I'll refer back to my race again on Sunday, there was a rider there that was going for intermediates from Aero actually. He was clearly testing and reconning the course. I saw him go 18 watts per kilo on one of the intermediates all on his own, and I thought, wow, he's going to come through the pack in the finish line here, but actually didn't even really show himself.
I guess you've only got so many 18 watt per kilo matches to burn. I mean, I've got none, but
when you do have it, geez, yeah.
I imagine that's a hard effort to replicate.
Yeah. But our 15 watt per kilo rider, where are we? That is Ed Gray from Dirty Sprockets.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, we saw him take out that last sprint, so he's sort of working his way into the race very nicely by the look of it.
Rob Augie was the other one who went for that early sprint, and then has actually sat up. So he's actually sitting 2.5 minutes back. So he's won, and we need to keep an eye out for any of these riders that are waiting for lap 3.
Yeah, I mean, looking on the mini map, it doesn't look like. I mean, it looks like they might have just been, honest to goodness, dropped from the sprint, because if you were going to try and latch back in, you'd have to be back in by now, because here we are approaching that final set of intermediates, and that's where you need to be to get the benefit from the draft. So I mean, maybe he just went around solo and had a crack at the primes on his own after a bit of a rest. But tough ask without the draft benefit of the group.
I wonder if they're, after this sprint, hanging around waiting for the village sprint. That's where, if you've gone through this sprint already, maybe you're sitting back for that one.
Yeah, I guess if you're going for the big one too. So speaking of going for the big one too, Sean from NZ Bro is back again, and AHDR actually much better represented here in this intermediate. Pepper from the Barracudas trying to chase down, but it's Tran from the WMZBs in front. Gibbo chasing hard. Mayink, again the WMZBs prominent. And they're going to take 1-2. Tran, Mayink, Gibson from AHDR, followed by Pepper as well from AHDR. So the Barracudas picking up some points there. Tran sporting some very impressive facial hair. Obviously had some aerodynamic benefits there because he absolutely flew off the front there. Wouldn't be caught. So the Bees, once again, it's a good looking squad they've got here. There's a number of riders. I think that's the fourth rider that we've called, either winning or coming in the top 3 on one of these intermediate sprints. So dominant performance so far.
Just seen an AHDR rider, he's sitting back there. Is that Adam at the front there? I did see someone pop an aero and move through to the front, and then I think has sat back up quickly.
Yeah, Adam's up there, along with Brad Gibson, who we saw prominent in that sprint. He's recovered nicely and positioned well for this next climb. Just looks like, if we go to the back, so we've had one Berger from WMZ. Looks like his day is just about done. So they have lost one, the Bees, but still very well represented up in this peloton with just one intermediate to go, and then they have a very fast downhill. So I mean, we were calling this as kind of the spot for a very aggressive long range attack. We see a feather here from Bryce from Z Sundries, another awesome name from the Z Sun team. So a little bit of push here. I don't think it's enough to. I just don't think this rise seems to be long enough to get enough of a gap that the the bunch with the draft benefit can't catch back up through the village.
This does not seem aggressive enough. You really need to be going sort of 5 to 6 watts per kilo to get a gap, and you could get 4 or 5 seconds, but then you have to keep working. It is that slow, long drag from here up through those fishing bridges, the fishing area and the bridges, which is, as I sort of said earlier on, it is a bit of a false flat through those 1-2%. It's hard to stay away, and then they do think that there's a little bit of rolling resistance on the bridges as well, so you do need to be working pretty hard.
Yeah. Tell you what, those bridges, they annoy the heck out of me because you do feel that that rolling resistance kick in. It is. It's Vale from R3R, who I believe we called as very prominent in that first sprint. So let's just have a look here. No, not hoping to attack back on. Just rolling through, finishing his race, collecting his points for his effort today. So no sneaky tactics going on there. We might have
scared them off.
Maybe that's it. Yeah, the eyes of the Swift Racing Police are on them. And
Size just mentioned it's amazing that no team has pushed through that little rise. I'm actually surprised on that as well.
Yeah, I really thought we'd see some orange numbers and some effort there to really split the bunch. Maybe they're just backing their sprinters in the finish, but I mean, maybe it's too short to really damage, but I've seen it happen in races in here. I've seen it really, break a field apart. So
I did it myself once.
Yeah, of course you did.
And also a couple of weeks ago, I think it was one of the Dura race races. I was just wanting just to get as little bunch as possible, and Yeah, definitely. We were all lighted up through that little area, so I'm very surprised.
Yeah, so a little bit of stretch there. Just I don't know. Maybe these riders sense that we were talking about them and complaining about the lack of regression a little bit, but all back together, one big friendly bunch. So I mean, it has whittled down. Definitely don't have the 30 or so riders that we did earlier. We might be 20, 22, 23 at just a really rough guess.
Right.
I can see 5 WMZ riders in the mix, so they're looking very well placed. We have 1, 2, at least 4 from the AHDR Barracudas. So they've done well this season so far. They've been right up there in the first 2 rounds, so they're looking for a solid result. And then maybe another handful of AHDR riders representing our other 2 teams. It looks like the Barracudas definitely have the edge of the AHDR teams at the moment. And do we have any NZ Bro teammates for our... We have one strong sprinter who's been prominent just about every single time we've gone through. We do have Hands here. He hasn't been our sprinter. So NZ Bro, we've got a couple of riders represented, but it does look like 2 teams sort of dominating proceedings here in the AHDR Barracudas and the WMZ Bs, just by my reading. When are we going to get those fancy graphics that the GCN got, Josh? That's what I want to know.
Oh, I haven't seen that.
Oh, they had instant results on the intermediate points and live positions and everything. So obviously, I just haven't networked well enough into the world of Zwift broadcasting.
Yeah.
Haven't been talent spotted yet, the 2 of us. So
No, well, I mean, look, we'll put in a call to GCN tomorrow. Then.
I think so. Got to get plugged into some of that sweet tech to get the intermediates at the moment. Where we did experiment with it last season. We did have a little bit of a play around with some advanced features. But yeah, the world of Zwift broadcasting is definitely coming a long way. And I mean, it's awesome just to see it on GCN as well. And over I think it's over 12,000 views when I checked this morning.
Road season has finished. It's at least we got something to watch now.
Yeah. I mean, the Premier League. There's some top grade riders there, and some names that you might recognise. And yeah, it's great to see how they translate into the world of Zwift. It was funny reading the comments, and a few commenters disappointed that there were power ups included. Probably just not really appreciating the fact that it is a game in its own right, and it has its own tactics and its own skills.
So what would be your power up of choice going into the final sprint, mate?
Oh, it's got to be the Aero.
Right.
At those speeds, if you can cut your drag by 50%, yes please. I mean, a draft would be handy on the descent.
Yeah.
And just picking your way through the pack. I mean, it would definitely affect my positioning and where I wanted to be coming into the pointy end of things.
Yeah, that's true. So if you got a draft, sit mid to back of the pack. If you got an Aero, you're more mid to the front of the pack.
Yep. Oh, here we go. We called it.
There's Adam Evans.
There's Adam Evans. I say that I've gone and clicked on the wrong rider. We'll get there. Just work our way back through the riders here. Now I've gone out of the race at the exact wrong time. Of course I have. That's all right. I think we can find Adam because I know his profile is not on private. There we go. We're back in. So we can see what sort of damage he's done. So heading...
Effort, 6 watts per kilo.
Yeah, and I am seeing...
Got a 4-second gap.
Nothing but empty road behind him and nothing but downhill to go. As the effort starts to come back to chase him, he's taking the points though.
It definitely caused a reaction, but then they're sitting up. He needs to keep going.
Yes, Adam's still sitting on that sort of 5 watts a kilo. We're about 3 Ks from the finish.
2Ks from that line there, so it's not far at all. The group have sat up. They're only doing, they're catching in quickly though, aren't they?
Oh, there's a bit of churn. There's not huge watts from the pack, but it seems to be enough rotation just to be closing in. Adam's holding strong, 4.5 watts a kilo, hitting the arrow as we come down the descent as he picks up speed. Still got a ways to go, but now starting to get away. As we see, the peloton is split now into two, solid groups.
Need to go again, mate. Need to go again. This is really where you come around that 800 to go. If you've got that gap, he's got 2 seconds. 800 to go. He needs to kick again, and that 800 is just around that right sweeping corner just before the pens.
Yep, we get into this flat section now. Last sort of flat bit for the course before we do head down the descent. Oh, and that gap's closing down now. No, 1 second to go with the group super tucking and making the most of that draft. They're going to catch him, and Bryce from Z-Sun is going straight over the top. We've got a counter-attack. Vale from 3R on his wheel, along with Manic from the WMZBs. We've got a three-way go here. So it's all on. Vale from R3R has gone very long. We can see that finish line in the distance now. He's holding on. Here comes the packer. They're going to get caught here.
Yeah, look at that.
See if we can catch him. Tran from WMZBs. Gray from Dirty Sprocket. Morton from WMZBs takes the win. Tran second. Morton third. Gray third from Dirty Sprocket. So 1-2 for the Bees. Wow. Action-packed finish, Josh. We had Adam Evans off the front. We had a counter-attack with 3 riders over the top, and then the peloton coming through over the top again to take the win. That lead must have changed 10 times in the last kilometre.
It's quite I was surprised that counter went so early then. And that actually backs up everything that I've been thinking. If you have a teammate that sacrifices themselves with 800 to go, cause a reaction, and then the group to follow, you might actually pop through. Teammates can pop through. So there you go. I think if you've got someone that wants to sacrifice themselves for the team, go at 800, surf the wheels, and finish strong.
Yeah, just set the race alight at that point, and I think like we saw there, if you're in the wheels, you can come through, get away from that peloton, and it's trying to take it out from long range. So, I mean, your WMZ there, just weight of numbers. I guess they could afford to have someone follow that counter-attacking move, and then still 2 strong riders in the peloton following behind if it didn't work out, and able to come over the top and take the 1-2 on top of a fantastic performance through the intermediates. So I don't have the official results, but I'm calling 3 for 3 from the WMZ Bs there. Tight, I think. Beyond that, the Dirty Sprockets were prominent, R3R were prominent, the AHDR Barracudas were up there. NZ Bro were in the mix, but probably not enough riders to score the points. So I think the AHDR and Dirt teams will finish ahead, maybe take out the other podium spots there tonight.
So just looking on Zwift Power, I can't see under a full second, but the first 4 riders are all at the same time. Below that, I'm not sure. So when we go into that 100th of a second, that's what it's split by.
Wow.
So the first 4 riders all on the same time, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 riders 1 second behind them. So top 10 split by less than 2 seconds.
Wow. Yeah, that was
minute and a half at least. Yeah.
Yeah. So just having a look at the results that have come through so far. So yeah, Jeff Morton from WMZ and Jason Tran taking the 1-2. Ed Gray and Michael Templeton from Dirty Sprockets filling out 3rd and 4th. And Adrian Flier from AHDR in 5th. Ian Maynink, also from WMZ, in 6th. So capping off a brilliant race for that team. Stephen Hands from NZ Bro in 7th. Brett Gibbo from AHDR in 8th. Bryce from the Z Sundries in 9th, and Michael Pepper from AHDR rounding out the top 10. So, Yeah, really nice race there from WMZ, dominant throughout. The Dirty Sprockets and the AHDR Barracudas look like they're going to fight out the rest of the podium. And then, yeah, really interesting battle there between Z Sun, NZ Bro, the other AHDR teams, all sort of represented as we get down into the sort of the top 20 or 30 riders. So that'll be an interesting one to see how the points shake out. What did we learn?
Quite a quick race as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, much quicker than I actually thought it was going to be, so makes me think tomorrow's going to be even quicker.
Yeah, 52 minutes, and a lot of these riders pushing up towards the kind of 4 watts a kilo cat boundaries, so 3.9, 3.8. Pretty common across the board there for that front peloton. So, yeah, even though there are some points there to recover, they certainly don't last very long, and yeah, pretty solid efforts, I think, up the rise each lap for sure. So I think
I learned my strategy at 800 to go. If a teammate wants to sacrifice himself, that's where to go. Otherwise, sit in and surf the wheels and all out from 5 to 400 to go. Hit the bridge and kick again.
That's it. And, sounds good. And yeah, I'm hopefully I won't do an Augie today and kind of go for that first sprint and then have my race in there. Hopefully be able to go for that, accrue some points early and then hold up that first climb and then wait and see. I think that's sort of been the advice to our team is, gonna have to be pretty adaptable and see what sort of group gets through those intermediates and holds together. And like we saw, we've got to be so attentive in the intermediate sprints, even if you're not going for the points, because we were shelling, 3, 4, 5 riders every time we went through one of those.
Yep. All right, it's been good to be back.
Yeah, it's been good fun. Tomorrow. No worries. Well, you go get some sleep. Thanks everyone for watching and for the chat. It's been good fun working our way through the race with you all, and some fantastic racing there as well. So really exciting finish. So good to be back. We'll be back again for the remainder of the points races this season, I hope. And I'll be streaming the efforts tomorrow so we can see, do I do a Jeff Morton or do I do an Augie? We'll see how we go.
Good on you, mate.
All right, good stuff.